Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel for another round table review. We are now approaching the finale. We've arrived at the finale of Doctor Who season 2, approaching the final episode this week, the Reality War, part 2 of the finale. But first, we've got to review part 1, Wish World. All the thrills and revelations of that story. Lots to get our teeth into. And in the Wish World today, I'm joined by Joe and Josh and Pete, for the time being at least. And yeah, let's just get straight into this. I won't turn you into ducks and owls and stuff, and violets. You can.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. Very kind of you.
I'll show some mercy.
I was worried that would happen.
But yeah, what do we think of this one? I'm trying to cast my mind back now. We had someone who didn't like it, didn't we?
Oh, it was awful.
That was
That
you.
was me.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'll start off
Okay.
positively
Yeah.
with it. I really liked all the stuff with Ruby and Shirley, like the whole way Conrad's world is. So, for example, he's trying to remember everything, but because he has such a narrow worldview, it made sense, like narratively, that because it had been set up previously in Lucky Day, that all these poor people would be overlooked and they'd end up in these circumstances. I really like that narratively and like the commentary on the disabled community being overlooked. I really liked all that stuff. Furthermore, I think the Belinda stuff with Poppy is quite nice, and I think that's going to play into next week. Her thinking Poppy is her daughter. I quite like that family dynamic. But my ultimate problem, sort of, with it came with how the story is set about with this random baby that is effectively the only reason this world exists. And there's like no prior context. Like, how did the Rani find that baby, know that baby was going to be born? That's where my problem with the story comes. But other than that, the Rani, she was brilliant, the actress. Absolutely smashed it, can see it like straight away. Not like the master at all, like we were all worried about. So I'm glad they've not gone down that route of, because with Russell's typical writing. But other than that, I'll hand it to Josh. What were your thoughts, mate?
I'm surprised that you are that scathing because I really liked it. I'm glad I'm here this time around because I wasn't here for the Legend of Ruby Sunday last time around, and I thought that was god awful because that was just like a whole episode of exposition.
Yeah,
It's
nothing
okay.
happens.
So we got this woman here, we got this
Treading
woman here,
water.
and then we're gonna watch the Church from Ruby Road again, and then we're gonna like pause it halfway through, and why is this happening, and why is she pointing there? It was just like literally a
Discombobulated.
whole episode to set up questions
To
and
get to
not
that
a story
point.
in itself.
Yeah.
This was a story in itself. I don't know how familiar you guys are with like the Eighth Doctor Big Finish, especially like the early run with like Charlie.
Natural
But
History of Fear.
Natural History of Fear, exactly. See,
Yeah.
there's a reason why we're friends, Pete.
Thanks.
Instantly, it came to mind, and I thought
Okay.
of Natural History of Fear, crossed with a bit of Memory Lane as well, actually. So
Yeah.
Charlie would appreciate that. But it put me in mind of those stories, which I really loved. Very sort of 1984 Fort Police, but it had the twist of actually it's not trying to they're not policing these things because they're trying to subjugate you and control your thoughts. They're actually doing it because that's what sustains the whole world, which I thought was quite a fun sort of twist on that kind of story. The stuff with the Rani, I think she didn't really get much of a time to shine, actually. And I felt a bit like she was kind of the weak link in it. And I'm kind of worried going into next episode how they're going to juggle Comrade, two Ranis, and now Omega. That just seems like too much. Um, but in terms of the actual setup of the Doctor being John Smith and having like this family dynamic in this Wish world, I loved it. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. The whole thing with the baby, am I remembering wrong, or is that didn't she pick it up in the pre-title sequence, or did she just
So
already have it?
Yeah.
She picked it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Seventh son.
To be fair,
Seventh
the
son,
the
seventh
dad
son.
was completely useless, wasn't he? He just stood there and did
Let
nothing.
him take his kid.
So that was my
Yeah.
gripe with it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, we'll have to see how it is next week. But I'm very surprised that this has had like an overwhelmingly negative reaction. People saying it's like the worst thing ever. When really I thought it was really good. I really liked it. And if I was to make one prediction though, coming into next episode, I think we're not actually going to see Omega because we've had the archive voice. I think that's not going to happen. I think we're going to be threatened with the presence of Omega, but I don't think we're actually going to see him. That's my prediction.
More like he's a plot device, like the Hand of Omega in Remembrance.
Exactly.
Where it's like more of a tool.
Yes. Instead of Sylvester McCoy going, "I've stolen the Hand of Omega," it's going to be Lorani saying, "I've stolen the voice of Omega." I've stolen the archive clips of Omega.
Yes.
Just pulls out a Big Finish box set.
Yeah.
Pete, over to you. How do you find this one?
Right, okay. Give me a you. Before I start, I just want to say that I had a really nice lunch break at work today. I listened to the round table I wasn't on. I mean, I was on the first half of it, but the second half with Josh Niles, really good listen. So check it out if you haven't heard it. I went to a quiet office when nobody was in, and I just blasted it out. I don't think I've quite finished it, but I've watched most of it. Really enjoyed it. Some really good thoughts and theories and suggestions and stuff. It was also great to see that archive clip of us, talking of archive clips, of us on a round table with all our hair looking bad from 2 years ago. Although my head didn't look amazing. But yeah, that was interesting. In terms of this episode, really enjoyed it actually. It was quite a good series finale, or the start of the series finale. Not amazing, not perfect, not like Russell's first era. But again, I have to remember a lot of that is shrouded in nostalgia. As an episode, I enjoyed it. My dad said it was his favourite series. My mum watched it all the way through, which is quite unlike. Normally she goes on her phone, she walks out and takes a phone call. But she was gripped the whole through. Thought the Rani was pretty good. I was kind of worried the character was so different from Kato Mara, but it was kind of similar enough that it kind of worked. And yeah, enjoyed. Thought it was good. Too many flashbacks, but apart from that, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was flashback overkill, wasn't it? And I've seen people say, "Oh, you can kind of justify it because it's him, John Smith, the Doctor, remembering all this stuff." And okay, maybe for some of them, but I think the one that everyone has kind of picked on is like when they flash back to Poppy in the same episode, like just 20 minutes ago or half an hour ago, or whatever. That was a bit weird. And it's kind of become like a staple of this era now, hasn't it? Like we can guarantee next week we're going to get like the first version of Omega, the second version of Omega, maybe Peter Davison with some Rice Krispies on his face, and maybe some Big Finish, more Big Finish audio clips and stuff. Like that's absolutely going to happen, as it did this week, of course, with Dimensions in Time and Time of the Rani and the Mark of the Rani.
Yeah.
Great to see Dimensions.
Is that canon now? Is that like official?
I guess. Yeah,
I guess
it's always been canon.
So EastEnders and Doctor Who are now officially a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. It's ruined. Cancel it. Just get rid of it.
Oh my god! I saw as well actually the guy that did those clips, or like he extended them. They got a guy in to extend them, like to make them widescreen as well, which was like dedication. I thought, yeah, nice to see that in there. But yeah, the flashbacks. I don't know. It's one of those things where like, so even though I should say I enjoyed the episode quite a bit, and I did find it better. Definitely like conceptually better than Legend of Ruby Sunday, because there was actually stuff going on, and like you had this stuff to get your teeth into with the Wish World and the 1984 stuff. But yeah, like flashbacks, okay, I will concede. It's one of those things where like you can't really like defend it really. It's just okay, that's now part of this era, that's how we do things now, I guess. Any other strong feelings on that, or
I think Omega is the most stupid villain they could have brought back.
Are we going there?
He works, yes.
Okay,
I think
go
Go
on.
on then, yeah. Omega.
I think he works as like the Time War, like a mythological thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually go back and watch the Three Doctors and you watch Arc of Infinity,
Mm-hmm.
they haven't dated that well. like the stories. He just seems a bit ridiculous and a bit like a stupid glam rocker forkhead that just comes in to be like, I should have been a god. And I worry that next week that is what it's going to be, is the Rani's going to be like, right, we're going to facilitate this so he can finally become a god.
You know full well that's what it's going to be. It is definitely, they're going to flash back to that. That is exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be a hero, I should have been a god. And then it's going to be like, and now with my power of Desiderium, you know, I'm going to be
and I know fans love him, but I'm so worried where it's going to go. Because like after last year with Sutekh, right, Sutekh's actually a good villain. They butchered him. They're going to crucify Omega.
Yeah, but I think Omega's a more sensible villain to bring back than the Rani. I think Omega makes more sense than the Rani to bring back if I was showrunner.
Interesting. So I quite like the progression from the Rani to Omega, because like it's bringing back a Time Lord and then bringing back like the ultimate Time Lord. It kind of makes sense. Like they could have just picked like two completely different like random villains. Like,
and they're both kind of scientists and engineers.
Yeah, so like she could look up to him, and it's all there with the stellar manipulation and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I do agree somewhat, Joe. I was watching back some clips of the Three Doctors the other day, and with the best one in the world, it's a bit panto. Like I'm gonna get crucified in the comments for this stuff. But like, just like his whole voice and like everything with Omega, and like the outfit looks, it kind of works well as like an action figure, like to look at, but like I don't know, like in actual clips and stuff. Yeah, and there's a few cool moments like where he lifts his head up and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, Arc of Infinity is not like a universally loved story either. Like, there's some nice ideas and stuff in there. But I like the idea of Omega and like he's trapped in this antimatter universe. He's this revered figure like who all Time Lords kind of know about and worship, and it does make sense. Like if you think back to when Russell was introducing the idea of like the Pantheon and stuff, and he was like, "Oh, stay tuned, like faithful viewers, Classic Who fans, because like, you know, there are monsters from the show's past that could potentially now be part of the Pantheon as well. Like, who do you think they should be?" And Omega does make sense, I think, in that regard. Although I will say as well, it's a bit confusing. Do we think he's actually part of the Pantheon? Is he one of the gods, or is that a different thing going on? Is
they're going to like elevate him
into
I think they'll find a way of retconning it. So Sutekh was supposed to be the one who waits, but I think they'll retcon it as Omega is the one who waits, you know, because he's waiting.
Well, they call him the one who was lost, don't they?
Or something,
so that kind of ties in, maybe, doesn't it? Like a similar
along
thing.
that line.
Can we just put this whole Pantheon thing to bed, though? I'm kind of bored of it now. I just want it to be back to... sorry, I interrupted you, Joe, but I think that one of my gripes of this, especially in this episode, is all the fantasy and magic is getting to a point now where it's like, can we just stop with it? Go on, Joe.
I'd rather have that than all Mrs. Flood stuff, though. When that was dragging on, and she was popping up as a cleaner and a spaceman and a postman and
and she's not even breaking the fourth wall anymore. So what was that all about?
I kind of hope they don't do what they did last year to Sutekh, because I think it'll just give fans more reason to be angry. And this could be the flip where last year I actually felt The Legend of Ruby Sunday was stronger than this, but the finale was weak. I'm worried that some people have actually really liked Wish World, and is the finale going to be an even bigger disappointment, you know, than Legend of Ruby Sunday?
Interesting.
At least I won't have to stay up to midnight to watch it at the cinema.
That's true.
So
yes.
Well, I was going to say we've still paid for a cinema ticket, but actually we haven't, because Joe's paid for ours. So thanks for that, Joe. If it's rubbish, then
it's my fault.
Yeah, it's either a present or a curse, depending on which way it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much the Wish World. But at least we'll all be watching it together. So if it is trash, we'll have survivor's guilt.
Yeah,
true.
We'll have new Sea Devils potentially as well, with the War Between preview and flashes of Kate and Ibrahim and all that stuff. I don't know, and Russell Tovey.
We might not want that though after the episode. We might be like, "Oh, please no more. Don't put me through it again."
Oh my god.
Who's most likely to storm out the cinema? I feel like it'd probably be I think Joe, or you,
Yeah,
Pete,
I
actually.
think so.
Take your pick. We'll go out together.
I think the only episode of Doctor that I have walked out halfway and didn't come back to the room for was The Timeless Children. I think I've been pretty good for this era. Yeah.
Well, that makes it a good segue because The Timeless Children, given they're bringing back Gallifrey mythology, do you think that's going to come back next week?
I reckon. I mean, I guess it's a case, isn't it, of like, have we already had all the reveals? We had the reveal of the Rani, the reveal of Omega, although not the reveal of his actual appearance yet and stuff. It's a case of whether there are more reveals to come or not, like in this season. I wouldn't be surprised, if we tap into that kind of stuff, because if you think about it, like for the past few seasons in the finale, there's always been something quite contentious, controversial, like retconning stuff. So like last year with Sutek having survived and wrapped himself around the TARDIS and been on the TARDIS like all this time over the years. Like again, like retconning stuff. Obviously, Timeless Children speaks for itself. All of the Tectune stuff in Flux and all that kind of thing. Storm and Azure and the Fugitive Doctor. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if, aside from the actual appearance of Omega, if there is something like plot related that's retconned in and, kind of polarizes fan reaction. But yeah, I don't know what that would be. Do we think? Should we get onto that line from the Doctor at the end, at the cliffhanger, where he's falling to his apparent death, his demise, and he says, "You don't understand. I have a daughter, or something. Poppy is real." What is that about? Is that gonna come into it?
He says, "Do you understand what that means?"
What that means?
He says,
I can have a bet. Calling it now, that is his actual daughter. And Space Babies, maybe the bi-generation explanation that they're on about coming will be the Rani experimenting with creating new Time Lords. And maybe the babies were like facility for that so she could bi-generate herself. Like Mrs. Flood set this all up. And then the bit that would be the kicker in the teeth for people would be Poppy is Susan's mum. And that is how Susan comes back. So I can see Russell doing it. Like, it'd just be because he's already had the thing in season 1 saying Time Lords have children out of order. So the 15th Doctor alludes to that he's not had his daughter yet. I could be wrong.
I hope we see Susan and the Doctor reunite in the next episode. I feel like it'll be a cop-out if it's just...
Can you imagine?
We just see clips of her. They bring her back.
She is.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Next season we'll do it. You know.
Yeah,
we'll let Caroline get another year older and.
Yeah. I
she
don't
was.
know.
Can I just say, by the way, she was absolutely loving the attention at Riverside on Sunday.
I was going to say, you've been reunited with her, haven't you, in the interim? So.
Yeah, it was really nice to see actually because it was a 60s girls celebration. So you had Caroline Ford, Maureen O'Brien, Annika Wills, and Wendy Padbury. And like Maureen and Annika don't do that many events. Carol's obviously had this big boost with the new series being in it again. So I think all of them had like a new lease of life. It was really nice to see all 4 of them together and smiling, and they all looked amazing. So it was a nice day. But she was loving being back in it, and I think she'd slightly wanted to put her autograph price up a little bit now that she's a new series actor.
Fair enough, though. Like,
but but she had a great time. It's good. Yeah.
Hold on. We have a message from across time and space. A dashing time agent is joining the call.
From the Hell Dimension, he is here. Oh, yeah.
I don't have much time. Got one message for you. Roundtables don't do that.
Hooray.
I will be brief. But yes, how are we doing?
Not
Good.
bad.
Hello,
How are you? How's Hal?
Hello. It's good, it's pretty smelly, pretty dark.
Pretty toasty.
Yeah, pretty warm. Yeah. There's a few questionable figures here, but I won't name any names. Yeah. Where are we up to?
Oh gosh. We've just done Omega, and I think we were on Poppy and whether she's going to be like Susan's mum or like that line at the end.
Wow.
The Doctor gives about, you don't understand. Poppy is real. You don't understand what that means. I have a daughter.
Interesting. That's yeah, interesting. I mean, I'll be honest, I've only watched the episode once so far for this one because knowing that we're going to see it again in the cinema when it
Yeah, yeah.
gets played beforehand. Um, but yeah, no, that is an interesting theory because that is a really interesting final line to end on for the Doctor, isn't it? The whole,
Yeah.
you know, Poppy is really my daughter, especially with the Omega reveal. Like you'd expect it to be something to do with that, but yeah, that is, it's significant, obviously.
Mm.
Um, it's an interesting one. This episode was, I think, I really enjoyed the ride while I was watching it, and that's what's kind of sat with me more so than thinking about the bigger twists. I think I always have this. This is why it's good that I'm only going to be on this one briefly because for a part one, I need to have the second part before I can make a full judgment of, what's gone on. But certainly in terms of a vibe and in terms of like it being kind of a trippy WandaVision type situation, there was a lot that gripped me in this one. And yeah, I'm just keen to see where it's going to go, really, where it's going to go from here. I love the Rani. Thought the Rani was fantastic. So more of her, please. If we've
What did
got
you
time.
think about, if it feels appropriate to ask you, Miles, because we've not got onto this yet, but what did you think about Rogue popping up?
Yeah.
I think interesting, really unexpected. I had no idea that was coming. I don't know if that had been leaked or anything.
No.
Given it had been filmed when Rogue was shot, you would have thought that somehow it would have been got out of there by now. But that really caught me off guard. It was like, oh my God, wow. And it, in the same vein as Jenna Coleman popping up in Twice Upon a Time, on a green screen.
Very
with
similar vibes, yeah.
Basically like this. This is the kind of budget, they were dealing with. But no, yeah, interesting. I like the fact that we're kind of tying those knots together. It feels very RTD in the terms of that. Why not bring that character back? In the same way that I think he was going to bring back like Midshipman Frame for Journey's End. It's that kind of thing. Why not have Rogue be the person who says this? Don't quite know how it works in terms of him knowing about tables in this Wish world.
It was a bit like when John Barrowman knew about the Lone Cyberman,
The Lone
wasn't
Cyberman,
it?
yeah,
exactly like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's the same thing. At the end of the day, it's something that needed to kick the Doctor's doubt into overdrive. We needed a character to do it somehow. It could have been Susan, but I don't know how she's going to be used later on. If you've got Jonathan Groff there, if he's willing to just spend 5 minutes filming in front of a green screen, why not at the end of the day? It was a lovely surprise because I think, Jonathan Groff was such a great character as Rogue for that last series. And it kind of tied nicely into the other themes of the episode in terms of this being Conrad's sort of kind of incel world. And, there's all these things that people can and can't do, all these opinions that they can and can't have. And it tied very nicely into that. Obviously, we had the moment with Colonel Ibrahim and the Doctor sort of letting a comment slip. And it felt very kind of 1984, very dystopian, Black Mirror kind of moment. So it kind of harkened back to that as well, kind of when the Doctor's talking about, oh, this beautiful man that I saw on the screen. Very dark stuff. This episode goes, for a weird and wacky episode, it goes to some very dark places. So yeah, I quite liked Rogue popping up just for the surprise and for the kind of, why not? All the gang's here. Let's chuck another one in there on the screen. Yeah. What about everyone else? I'm assuming that.
I mean, I liked it. Yeah, I've seen the backlash to it, but I thought it was harmless. It was a nice callback.
I don't get why everyone was
not?
complaining so much about it. Like, I don't think it was the worst effect we've ever had in Doctor Who. It was fine. It did what it needed to do.
About the actual visuals.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of get that actually. Yeah.
I could not understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mind the actual special effects side of it, but yeah, it is a bit strange. How is he able to contact? Why does he know what's happening if he's in a hell dimension, which was very Buffy actually.
You know what? Yeah.
Yeah, or Angel. But it was the fact that he seemed to know what was going on without any prior indication to. So unless he comes back in the next episode, which I don't think will happen, I think that'll
Doesn't
be
seem
it.
likely, does it? Especially when you film that bit way back
And they made a
when.
big deal of it and Unleashed being like, oh, look, Jonathan
Big
Groff.
surprise.
And they made it,
Yeah.
popped up in the
Yeah.
read through.
Even to Shooty,
So
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how he knows. It probably won't get explained how he knows until we get like a short story in 10 years' time that explains all of it, or a Big Finish box set. But yeah, it was fine. It was nice to see him again.
The thing I'm curious about, do you think Tables Don't Do That came first, or the script for this episode? Because the Tables Don't Do That bit, I kind of felt was a bit rushed, like they were working around a line they had pre-recorded.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe. Because I know that Russell has been teasing that line for quite a long time. Like, I think in his columns and stuff in the magazine, like, he's, for one of them, like, he left, ended the column by saying, like, oh, and remember, Tables don't do that. And, like, in the Radio Times and everywhere else, he's been kind of, like, dropping it in. So maybe, actually.
Well, literally.
I liked that.
Yeah,
but I liked that idea, actually, of the whole thing with the tables. Because I think, Joe, we were wondering beforehand, like, oh, is it going to be a rehash of The Beast Below, where it's like to do with where the engines are moving or whatever, like by putting a glass of water on the table. But yeah, that whole thing with the visual of it, like literally falling through the table, and the slip bins as well, the orange slip bins full of all the cracked mugs. That was great. It was hilarious to think that, like, well, we'd seen all of that, like, set photos of that, like, ages ago, and now, like, it makes sense. But at the time, you're wondering, oh, why are there these orange bins everywhere with the word slip on them? So yeah, I think regardless of what came first, I liked the thinking behind it and the way it fit into the story.
It also, the symmetry of it's quite nice to how it reflects what's going to happen in the closing moments of literally the world slipping through.
Oh, like plunge into
into
the universe.
yeah, the same visuals of the buildings slipping through, going through,
of course,
through the ground.
Yeah.
Very interested to see how that's, because it's on such an apocalyptic scale, London falling into itself, to see how that's going to be followed up upon, in the part 2, because we've seen so many pictures of kind of both people looking still like they did in Wish World, like Shirley still in the same costume.
She's the same, isn't she? Yeah.
But then we're seeing photos of like Kate and Colonel Ibrahim, who are now back in their unit gear. So it's kind of like,
And Susan Twist
got a new suit as
Susan
well.
Twist, Susan Twist. But yeah, Mel. What about Mel? Is Mel going to meet the Rani again? We only got that sort of brief few moments with her in this one.
I don't know if you guys have seen Lost. What they did when they finished Lost is that they split into like 2 realities. One which carried on from the finale of that season, which was very messy in continuity, and then they flashed back to like an alternate version of the very first episode. And I can see it happening where the way that the cliffhanger is resolved is that the Doctor doesn't survive falling from that. He basically crashes down to Earth, blacks out, and then wakes up, and he's in like a sort of flashback version of Earth. And there's these 2 stories running, one with the Doctor in like a preset version of Earth before it was destroyed, and one where it's like the survivors of whatever's happened, and it's these 2 stories running concurrently. That's what I think might be the answer to why we see sort of in the photos some people how they are in Wish World and some in completely different outfits. I think there might be like 2 different realities. Maybe that's what the reality war is. Maybe these 2 realities are gonna like clash into each other. But I think that's what might happen. I can see that happening.
I think you're on the money with that, because no images have been shown of 15 and Ruby, have they? There's no promo
I think we've got
images.
one of Ruby. Was Ruby in the outfit from Lucky Day?
Maybe.
Well, yeah, one of the old outfits.
It's like the leather coat one for some
And
reason.
there actually is now, I think, something of Shooty, but I think it's like an Unleashed behind the scenes image where he's back in the
Is he back in the denim?
Maybe. Yes. Which, as well, I quite like, because that costume was only, as in the like the kilt thing from the first episode, that was an old promotional stuff and pictures and everything, and like we barely saw it. So it'd be quite nice to go back to that, and also because of the continuity between like the pinstripes from the suit this week to then kind of go into a similar material, similar pattern with this one.
So like the reality is broken and the Doctor's the Doctor again. Using John Smith, where like maybe the costume forms into that. That'd be quite a nice visual, if it all compressed. Because
Mhm.
tonally,
Yeah,
it's the
maybe.
same, isn't it? It's blue and white.
Yeah, same
I
palette.
do hope, though, if he is going this week, he does not regenerate in that. That's all. That's my only hope. I want him to go out in a really doctory costume.
Mhm.
Well, sure, we've
Oh.
not seen his Joy to the World outfit again, and that was used in a lot of promotion, wasn't it?
Yes.
The leather. Oh, have I stepped on something then? Is
No,
that?
no, it's just like.
Oh, I
it's-
thought you were smiling, being like, "Yes," and there's a reason
no,
why.
it's a good, very good point.
We've
Like, why
talked
was
about
that
this.
like in all of the posters?
Of series
I,
two,
I
yeah.
can't actually get my head around why that happened because like he literally doesn't wear it, and he might never wear it in this season.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's on the steelbook, it's on all the artwork. It messes with my head. It's like no, it shouldn't be there.
Sorry, I've just thought of something, right? If the Doctor is like staying at the hotel throughout the whole of 2025 in Joyce the World,
Yeah.
Yeah, he would have lived
then
this.
May the 24th is something that he's lived through already, right?
Wait,
Is that
Josh.
the thing where Moffat said, "Oh, I
Moffat's
had
had
to
to
read
read
the
it.
script for the finale." Maybe
Right.
that's 'cause again. It's like with that. Is that just that, or is it something more significant where like there's something else going on? But yeah, it's a good point. I suppose it's like timey-wimey stuff where technically that hadn't already happened yet, but it kind of had. But something like that. But yeah,
They'll
I
bring
don't
back
know.
Anita. Because she, the actress, I don't know what her name is, Anita, on her Instagram,
Steph
she
Dawley.
actually shared something regarding the finale, regarding the reality war, which I thought was very strange considering she has,
Oh.
like the images for it. So I wonder if she's in it briefly, maybe for a flashback sequence with him.
Maybe.
Well,
I
we
think
flash
my-
back to
my-
the May the 24th in that original timeline, and
Yeah.
they're there with their
Just
ice creams or
around.
whatever. Just what's going on here?
My claim to fame with Steph Dwelly is that I gave her a plastic wallet, so
Really?
hopefully she remembers me.
Yeah, that's going to be crucial. Plastic
Yeah.
waters don't do that.
Plastic ones.
It's like the equivalent of the spoon last year. That's going to be the
Exactly, yeah.
vital
Yeah.
object
Oh,
that
no.
kind of comes
I
back
swear
into
to you,
play.
on this plastic wallet, I will save the
I will save
reality.
the universe.
Yeah. And on that bombshell,
right.
I'm gonna slip back into the Helderman. Are you coming with me, Pete? Are you coming
I'm
to the
going to
Helderman?
join you. I'm going
Yeah,
to join you.
right. I'll
So,
see you in a bit. We'll have
Oh.
a barbecue.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Remember about
Bye,
round
guys.
tables.
See you on the other side.
Bye.
Yeah. And then there were three.
no.
Okay, I want to go back to that cliffhanger actually because I have an idea for how potentially that might be resolved in a way that would be more disappointing than the whole Susan's mum and less controversial. But I wonder when he's saying, "I have a daughter, Poppy is real," is that just him remembering in that moment that Poppy, the baby in the Wish World reality, exists in the real world too?
Yeah.
And therefore, when he says she's real, it's not like that she's really his daughter, as much as that would be kind of cool and funny and whatever. But like, is it just him there remembering she's real and like, exists in our world, and that's perhaps the key? That's why I've got all these photos of Belinda like holding her. That's perhaps in the synopsis it talks about like an innocent life.
Must be sacrificed.
Or yeah, like
Or
it all comes down to an innocent life. It's a similar thing to the spoon last year and the one woman in existence, the one spoon in existence. I wonder whether it's just that and it's misleading intentionally so. And I wonder whether like Poppy is going to be the key to everything, and
I
that's going
think
to bring
you've
it all
hit the
back
nail on
round
the head.
to Space Babies. I don't know how, unless it's literally just like the power of Poppy being there. Oh, it's literally marvelous and the best thing ever, and like she's literally a space baby. But something kind of wishy-washy like that, like with Ruby dropping the screen last year and it cracking in front of Sutek and all that kind of stuff, and Ruby's mum and the name of her mum, some kind of technobabble MacGuffin thing going on there, perhaps. Yeah, which wouldn't be as interesting, but
I
I
think
can
you're
see
onto
that happening.
something.
Yeah.
Because what this feels like, and some people might not be Marvel fans, so this is going to be like a separate division. The way they're setting up Avengers Doomsday, basically in the Marvel Universe, the way they're heading for it, there's all these incursions from different realities that's going to lead to something called Battle World. So
Right.
maybe what happens in Wish World is all of the realities of Earth merge and that's why you've got the Bone Beast, you've got people in different costumes. And Poppy is the last thing from the Wish world that's kind of not like, what's in the real world. So she's like the linchpin.
Yes.
So in a really messed up way, maybe they have to kill her in order for it to revert back to reality.
Yeah. It'll be a bit Children of Earth there.
I don't think they'd kill her, but I can see her being a linchpin. And it even goes back to, like, if we're talking about Omega, with the three Doctors, the whole thing with the second Doctor's flute, how that's the key, because it, like, I was looking back at this, and I think it's because it comes over to Omega's world, but it's not converted into antimatter, so it remains as matter. Then the things collide, and boom. So yeah, maybe, like, somehow she is constant throughout the two realities, or all of the multiple realities, or because she's a child, because she's not grown up yet, like, I don't know, she hasn't splintered off into different versions of herself, something like that. You can kind of see, I can see that happening maybe, and it's also like a massive misdirect, the whole daughter thing. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, is there anything else we have to say before we get on to predictions, hopes?
I'm kind of eager to just talk about what I think is going to happen next, because I am gone into it completely blind now.
Okay. I perhaps a fun thing to do would be to list a number of things and say whether we think they're going to happen or going to get explained, perhaps. Because I think actually that there's some stuff which won't be explained. I think Mrs. Flood breaking the fourth wall is not going to get explained. I don't even think her change of heart and persona in Church and Ruby Road is going to get explained either. Like the whole thing with her seeing the TARDIS, I think that was just like whatever. How the drone guards from the Interstellar Song Contest are in the Rani's Bone Palace. Again, I think that's just literally like, we're just going to go with it. Like, we're not going to explain that. In terms of stuff that could happen this week, I mean, the big one obviously is kind of hovering over, like, whether this is the end for Ncuti or not. Josh, do you have any ideas about that at all, or where do you sit with that? Do you think it's real? Do you think that's happening or not happening? Or...
I feel like if we're gonna get an ending, it will be a bit open-ended. It will be a bit of a sort of survival. They'll like walk off into the sunset together, and it's like they might, because I don't know if Belinda's gonna have a sort of ending as well that's necessarily like I'm gone for good. I think what will happen is maybe they'll get back to Earth. Earth will be reset, and like, I'm back on May the 24th, but I've actually really enjoyed being with you. So I don't know, maybe it'll be a case of, if we have a bit of a break, it's like the ongoing adventures of Ncuti and Belinda, and we don't know where that's going to end, because I feel like that would be a better ending. And then if they bring like season 3 in like a couple of years' time, then they could bring Ncuti back for that, rather than have the Doctor regenerate, turn into somebody that we don't see for ages, or we don't even see who he turns into. I feel like that would be... I feel like that would be a little bit worse in a way, because it would be robbing us of having, like, especially since this season's been so short, I think it would be robbing us of having more sort of extended universe opportunities with the Doctor and Belinda, which I think has been a really good pairing. So I hope that however they end it, if we're not going to see the show back on the air for a while, it's a sort of, yeah, they walk off into the sunset, or maybe they walk off into the club and have a good time together, and we don't know what happens next for them. But like, they're both still there. That's how I think it would be nice for it to end, but who knows? I might be completely wrong, and we see Ncuti regenerate into somebody else. But I like to think that they keep him in the role for a bit, if it's that uncertain with the whole Disney money and everything. I'd like to think that it's not an open and shut case of, okay, he's gone.
I don't think Disney have made any sort of decision But I was saying, due to their financial circumstance at the moment, I was wondering if they were I was saying this to Rich, would it be cheaper for them to let the BBC and Bad Wolf live in this? Like, okay, we might need to do a reduced episode series or reduced count or some specials or whatever's cheaper. Do they let them produce the specials? Because he hasn't had a Dalek episode yet. And I'm wondering if they're going to let them produce them, and then they're going to be like, right, we'll still stream them though, and they'll give them the money after the fact for the streaming rights. Because there hasn't been like an official, Doctor Who's not with Disney anymore yet. And it just feels very weird. I think we're going to get a weird deal where they'll still have the streaming access, but maybe not be financially
Well, I suppose that would be
involved.
like bringing everything full circle. It would be kind of like the 60th specials, wouldn't it? Because they hadn't fully come on board when they were being developed and shot and everything. The talks were happening, but the big Disney launch was with season 1. So maybe something like that. Yeah, I don't know, because I think personally, like, I'm kind of split 2 ways. Like, I think it would feel very strange, like, if these were the final days for the 15th Doctor and we just have no idea. Like, we couldn't even prepare for it, or like there's not all that usual stuff where they have the big montages of the whole era and like, get ready to say goodbye, all the publicity of it, like, this Doctor's final story this week. But then I can see them maybe wanting to get away with a surprise regeneration, especially if in the cinema. I can see Shooty kind of really not wanting to stick around, or like mentally, like for him, like he's just off doing other things now. And I like the idea of him going back to like do maybe like one final special or a few final specials, like a Dalek story, but I don't know how practical that would be with everything else going on, with all the lead times, like how long it would take to get that done. It's very strange. Like, we're going to look back at this week as like either the days that were literally like the final days for his Doctor, or the days when we thought maybe it was the final days, but we weren't fully sure. Very weird, yeah. But exciting to see which way it goes, kind of like, and to be there in the cinema and just be like, oh my god, it's going to be a kind of surprising moment whenever it happens, isn't it?
I guess like a similar thing happened back in series 1 with Eccleston, but people knew that Eccleston was leaving since like Rose aired. So this would be the first time where, there's been murmurings that maybe he's gone, but nothing has been official.
Yeah.
And so it is a very strange position to be in. I hope he's not gone. Yeah. Because I feel like we hadn't had enough time to really still connect with him in a way. It's strange. I feel like I haven't got like a proper handle on his Doctor yet. So yeah, if we do get like another Wilderness Years, I hope we have the continuation of the 15th Doctor rather than Wilderness Years 2 and we've got the 16th Doctor who we've seen like 10 seconds of.
The new Paul McGann almost, isn't it? Yeah, like
exactly.
A little flash of this new Doctor, and then
unless they do something completely mad and he regenerates and he turns into Joe Martin.
I mean,
that would be fun. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be crazy. I almost don't see them doing it for that reason, but I would love to see it. It would be fantastic, and it would all tie in, wouldn't it? And it would just be even if it was
great,
just like not literally her Doctor, but like a 14th Doctor thing again, where he's reusing the old face, and there are multiple ways they could explain that.
And maybe in Flux they can do Flux properly, where regenerates anew, but faces a villain from her past, but she has to rediscover. So you could have a series where like half her episodes are Joe Martin episodes set in the original timeline, but they're relevant, to the current timeline she's in. So they can do Flux properly. Because Azure, they just get like whatever his name is, the sparkly people. They just get like tossed aside at the end of time, like at the end of whatever that episode is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't know what happens with them. Yeah.
Or he turns into Richard E. Grant because they brought him in for Rogue. So maybe.
Yes. And he wasn't there this week, was he, in the montage of all the Doctors?
No, because maybe he's in the future.
Maybe.
Or maybe it's David Tennant again.
Oh. Do you think David Tennant will be in it? Because if
In
they're gonna
story.
explain the bi-generation, do you think maybe they'll explain what's happened with 14 and 15?
I reckon a flashback maybe, but nothing beyond that. It's weird. I was saying to Joe earlier, yeah, it's like we're in the same situation this time last year, like because people thought he was maybe returning in the season 1 finale, or like we were gonna like cut to him in his garden, like when Sutek was dusting
Getting
everybody
dusted.
or whatever. Yeah, when that didn't happen. I could see it maybe because obviously he's like on good terms with the production team and the costume exists and everything, but I don't know. I guess
I'd like to
it
see
depends.
a costume variant. I'd like to see like something done differently.
I mean, maybe if it was a regeneration, like if it was Shooty's regeneration story, maybe that would lead more credence to the idea that he'd be in it. Perhaps like with some kind of
Maybe
weird
he'll be like the
Guardians of the
Watcher,
Edge
and he'll like
thing, or-
merge into him.
Yeah,
and then
something.
become the new Doctor.
Yeah.
maybe not that bit.
Turn a pasty white.
Well, there we go. That was our review of Wishworld. So much to get our teeth into.
The plastic wallets in the
that.
finale, isn't it?
The plastic
You-
wallet.
you-
It's got, it's all. We've laid it all out. All the beats. It's all there. Yeah, we've cracked it. We've got it cracked. But what did you think of this story, and what are your hopes and theories for next week? Has Shooty gone? Is the Master's Tooth going to be in it? Is Conrad going to die? All these burning questions. Let us know all of your thoughts on those in the comments below. And as ever, thank you obviously to Joe and Josh here with me now, but also Miles and Pete from the Hell Dimension who joined us earlier on. And yeah, we'll be back next week to review the final episode, the final part of the finale, the Reality War. But otherwise, thanks for watching and enjoy the cinema screening if you're going to that as well. And yeah, remember, round tables don't do that.
Don't do that.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.